Hi, everyone.
Happy Wednesday.
We are going to wait just a little bit so some people can join before we start. Hi, Brandy.
If you're joining us today, tell us hello. Let us know where you're watching from. Hey, Debbie. Courtney.
Kentucky, Ohio.
North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Becky.
Shaylee from Nebraska.
All right. We have a pretty good group going right now. So we're going to go ahead and get started, guys. We have a bunch of guests with us today. So we have Garrett and Brendan from EasyCare. And we also have Derek from 3D Hoof Care. And they're going to talk about the new Easy Shoe 3D horseshoe.
If you have any questions throughout this live video, please put those in the comments. We have these gentlemen here to answer any questions that you might have, so it's a good time. We also are going to be giving away a little prize to one lucky viewer. One lucky viewer is going to receive a pair of the new Easy Shoe 3D and
the glue and Instaset.
glue.
There.
Nice.
So make sure you get those comments in there. And with that, gentlemen, we are going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. All right, well, I'll start. My name is Garrett Ford, and I have been the owner of EasyCare since 1993, and I'm happy to say that in those years, Valley Vet and EasyCare have partnered together. All those years, Valley Vet's been a great partner for us, so I'm happy to be on this live event with Valley Vet. Great partner, great. They stock so many things well and they ship fast, so we love Valley Vet. So the majority of EasyCare products are built around flexibility and moving with the equine foot. So we really believe in making products that flex, that move, that expand, contract with the equine foot. So that's kind of our main concept around our products. And so in the last couple of years, we've started doing a lot of shoes in addition to hoof boots. All of our shoes are flexible. They move with the foot. They allow expansion and contraction. So this product is very unique in that it is the most flexible of any of our products. So these, with one hand, I can take this shoe and make it flex, make it expand, make it contract. And, so with my hand strength, I can do this. You take this, you put this on a 1,000-pound horse, and they're flexing this very well. And so I'm going to turn it over to Derek here pretty quick, but what we've done with this shoe is Derek and I started collaborating and started talking online because Derek said, hey, there's a lot of stuff you're doing that I think is the future of shoeing. I was looking at Derek's 3D pad, and Derek makes an incredible product that is, in my opinion, is probably one of the hottest selling products in the horseshoe industry right now called the 3D pad. And so Derek and I started talking. We started talking this year at the Hoof Care Summit. A month later, we had a prototype, and here we are selling a shoe together. So, Derek, I'll turn it over to you. You can kind of talk about the importance of your 3D pad, how it's helping horses, your time in the industry, and then we can kind of talk more about the shoe and how to apply it.
Hey guys, Derek here. I've been a farrier for 40 years. Started off in South Africa, but then I traveled South Africa to America, to Dubai, to England, and I'm now settled in Sarasota. But in the time that I've been shooting horses, man, the shoeing that we're doing, it's antiquated, and the peripheral load, I've seen the destruction it's caused to horses over the last 40 years. And I've been trying my hardest to try and get on top of that. So much so that in 2008, I actually invented former hoof. You've all heard of that now, called Quick Shoe. And that was the start of me trying to stop the peripheral load on a horse's foot. But unfortunately, it doesn't work on a horse it's in serious work because there was no flexibility to it. I worked for a company called Godolphin, which is Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai. We had race horses that we took from Dubai every year to England. And we spent 9 months in England, and then we brought them back to Dubai for 3 months. And during those 3 months in Dubai, over the last 5 years, I started trimming the horses and taking their shoes off and putting the shoes on for the day that they raced, and took the shoes off the next day. My soundness issues changed incredibly when I talked about. I think that we went from an 18% strike rate to close on 35% strike rate. The vet came and said, man, I'm not injecting the hocks anymore. I'm not injecting ankles anymore. I'm not injecting parts of the horses, and I'm not getting the strain that I had in the past. And it all came down to the stopping of peripheral load. But unfortunately, environment is the most important factor in horseshoeing. If you take a horse, the reason the horseshoe was invented was that the Romans invented the road. The hippo sandal came in to stop the horse's foot from wearing out. So environment plays all. In Dubai, I had sand. There was no tarmac whatsoever. But when a horse walked on a hard surface, an imprint of the frog was always there, which showed that the frog is the most integral part, as far as I'm concerned, to dissipate force on the horse's foot. So that's when I started learning how to design and 3D print, and came up with the range of products that I've got now. So basically, if you put this underneath a horse's shoe, it mimicked the forces of a barefoot. And to be honest with you, it's changed the life of so many horses around the world. It is incredible. The feedback I've got. We are in every country in the world in less than 2 years, and they say it's the hottest selling product in the last 25 years in the equine industry. And I can see the difference it's made to horses. If you take a horse with a peripheral load, it takes its wall and collapses the wall to try and get down to frog support. This changes that completely. And the strength of the horse's foot changes. The demeanor of a horse changes. That's probably the most important thing. And it all starts at the front end. When the front end goes bad, the back end starts taking over. When the back end goes bad, everything falls apart, because then we've got, I look at a horse as a triangle. And the minute we lose the structure in the triangle at either side, the horse's performance will drop, and it drops drastically. And I think that's why the vets are so popular, is because they're out there injecting and sorting out all the problems that horseshoeing, which we've been doing for thousands of years, is creating. But then again, it is all environmental. So that's why when I saw what Garrett's been doing, it was a no-brainer to me that the future, in my opinion, is going to be the synthetic glue-on shoeing. And especially, we're also working forward on a new project, which is going to be the removable shoe, which is going to be fantastic. But if you have to shoe a horse, you have to give it the frog support, because that is, they say it's the heart of the foot, but to be fair, it stops the inside from collapsing. It stops all the soft tissue from straining, and it will change your horse's life. And this is from testimonials I get every single day about how having taken the peripheral load of a horse out. And that's where Garrett comes in. When I saw what Garrett's been doing, the minute I joined up with him, and I said, Garrett, if I can put my frog support into your product. So I see that, this is going to change the game as far as I'm concerned. And here we are, less than probably 6 months later, we actually have a product out there that works.
Works well. So Derek, can you hold up your pad again?
Yeah, of course.
So if you look at the similarities between the pad, so the black pad that Derek's holding gets nailed between the horseshoe and the foot. This shoe that obviously you can see Derek and I have combined products together. So the new 3D shoe, what Derek and I have tried to accomplish with this is we have a narrower pattern, which is great. So a lot of our other Easy shoe designs are a much wider pattern. The challenge with that is we don't get the traction in arena services, grass, arena sports. And so Derek and I really sought out to have a shoe that's going to get a little more traction, a little more purchase. We can use this on the racetrack. We can use it 100 jumpers. We can use it for, we've had a lot of success already with barrel horses. And again, the flexibility of this shoe is key. And so the way this shoe works right now is that these tabs are held onto the horse's foot with glue. So basically the way this works is we slide a foot in like so, and under each tab, we pull a tab up like this. We add super glue between the tab, push the tab down, and then once all the tabs have super glue under, we basically take a roll of shrink wrap your foot. 10 minutes later, you pull it off, the shoe's on. And so you can see how the bottom looks. We actually have a nice frog on this horse. And what this does, this is the key to the horse. You'll see in a lot of literature that horses have 5 hearts. So they have the heart that pumps, and then every one of these feet, when it touches the ground, if that frog is not touching the ground, we have one of the hearts that's not working. What Derek's design does with the iron hoof and what this shoe does is every time now we have a footfall, we have a frog disengaged. Super important. And so that's kind of the gist of this shoe and how it works. And we have a lot of questions on super glue. Does super glue really work? Does it keep horses? Does it keep a shoe on a horse? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have some of the best endurance riders in the sport right now using the wider web version of the shoe, held on with super glue, and they've run some of the fastest 50 and 100 mile times in the US this year with shoes just held on with super glue. So if somebody would have asked me that a year ago, I would have laughed, but things are changing rapidly, and this shoe gets held on with super glue, and it's working really, really well for us. So, Derek, I don't know if there's anything you want to add with the shoe and what we've done.
I think the biggest thing is, if you take a normal open-heeled horseshoe and you stand on that, and you'll see how the inside of your foot tries to get to the ground because gravity takes into it. And then if you stand on this and you'll feel the difference between the two, it's actually incredible. The pain threshold that these horses have to go through is incredible, hey? And if we can take any of that away, you'll find that you're going to have a higher performance rate, sounder horses, and I'll call them sounder for longer, which I think is very important. And I see we've got a question came up there. Have you used these in barrel horses? And yeah, I actually had one of my owners who was never a farrier, who came out to one of my clinics one time, and she was using the 3D pad, and she learned how to self-trim and self-apply the EasyCare 3D, and has been barrel racing successfully with it on all 4 feet, and as well as other barrel racers have been using it right now because it's got really good traction. So yeah, for barrel racing, I think it's a must.
Right. And you can see the big difference in why this is going to get better traction in the barrel side. This is going to get much more purchase than our traditional designs. And then as we're going here, Derek, I'll kind of show them where we're going with this. The other thing we're working on here that is not available yet that will be in the future is that the current Easy Shoe 3D is held on with super glue. In the future, one of the things we're doing is we've designed a shoe that's held on with a belt system. So the way this works is you pull your belts, this slides off, and now the hoof is completely barefoot, and these outside tabs stay on the horse for 5 weeks. So we've been testing for over probably a year now. We're getting really close, and one of the shoes that we will release with this is the 3D bottom. So, and the nice thing about it is you'll be able to change from this bottom to a 3D bottom to other bottoms with the pull of a pin. So Derek and I are really excited about the products coming in the future. And so I don't know if we want to open up to questions now or.
Yeah, Ashley asked, would they work for a navicular horse?
I can answer that. You know, if you take the same shoe now, you can actually, if you were to rock at the toe of it as much as you possibly can without losing integrity, and you put a bit of soft impression material into the heels, you can just drill 3 8mm holes or 1/4 inch holes in the frog to hold the impression material, and that'll really cause a nice shock absorption impact on the frog and the navicular bone, and then the rocket heel toe at the front will give you the breakover that's needed. So I think it'll give it the dampening effect that this shoe gives on the navicular horses is incredible. But you just want to try and give it as much breakover, which you can do with a rasp. It does rasp out very easily for that.
Right. Nice.
All right. Virginia asked, how do they size compared to racing plates?
Well, I've been using Kirkard racing plates my whole life, you know, and to be honest with you, the sizes here, they're 4mm apart, which is 2mm each side. It's very difficult to actually size these. People say, is it comparable to a size 1, a 2, a 3? Every shoe manufacturer has a different sizing chart. I know, I've been through it all. So you have to measure your foot for accurate measurements with this. I have got an app that's going to be developed, I think, within the next month, which I'll be sharing with Garrett, where you'll actually scan the horse's foot and you'll size it to exactly what size shoe you want, because that is the future as far as it's concerned, because you have to measure this very, very accurately for any of the tab system shoes. It must be a snug fit, as snug as you possibly can.
Yep. And the way we take a measurement on a foot is, and it's what we want to do is we want to measure from side to side at the widest point of the foot, both front and hind, and that'll get you as close as possible with dropping on. And what we want to look for once we get the shoe is we want a tight engagement of every tab around the foot. And if we have any extra heel length, we can trim that or use a rasp to feather it, but we want a tight fit of all the tabs.
And we should mention that we have front and hind patterns in these, and we have 5 sizes of each, starting at 118 and going to 134 currently.
So you can see right there the difference between the hind and front pattern. And the nice thing about with the 2 patterns, if you have a elongated front hoof, a hind has the opportunity to work well. And so, you know, with the 2 patterns, we're fitting most horses well. And so it's made a big difference to have a front and a hind pattern.
Yeah, and I don't even call that a hind pattern. It's more of it's a universal, because it does fit the quarter horse foot front perfectly. So that's why it's very important. Measure your length and your width, and it'll fit and get it to fit as close as you can to one of those shoes that we've got there.
Right.
Leslie had asked, how much modification can you do with these?
You can do quite a bit. So, you know, one of the things Derek was saying for navicular, if you want to get in with your rasp and work on your breakover, you can also shorten heels or shorten width from really this portion back. And then the other thing we can do for modifications is we can drill holes in the frog plate, and we can add dental impression material to give a little more support. Where you can't do a lot of modifications is in between the tab systems. It's hard we don't want to do too much here because you'll lose the integrity of the shoe. One thing we have done very successfully is if you have a tab that's not engaging and not tight, one of the things we'll do is we'll cut a tab off another one of our, we have an 11-finger tab that looks just like this. You can cut a tab off, glue it inside, and create a little bit of a spacer. That's a nice trick. If you have a tab or two that's not engaging tightly, it tightens them up by about 2 millimeters.
All right. Brandy said that she has a gelding that she's been trying to get the heels to grow out on. Would these help?
Go ahead, Derek.
Right. If your heel's not growing out, that means that you've got a bit of a deep flexor issue, because the deep flexor controls everything down the bottom there. So if you want to grow your heels out, it's very important that you rock of the toe. You want to try and give as much breakover as you possibly can on the horses, because a lot of these horses that have got a long pastern have got low heels. So there's not much you can do about that. But if your pastern is actually broken back, you can, by putting a frog support on the horse's foot with breakover, is going to change the integrity of the horse's foot completely, and the internal structure will change slowly over time. There's no doubt about that. We've proved that over and over again with the 3D pad, and the mechanics on this are exactly the same.
Nice.
Okay. Wendy asks, are they recommended for endurance?
On the endurance side, I would go with a wider web shoe. You're going to get a little more. You're going to get better wear. You'll get a little bit more shock absorption, and you don't need the traction on the shoe. I would say the only time I would recommend this for endurance is maybe if you're in wet ground, a lot of grass, a lot of a situation where you need more traction. If you're in a dry environment, I would recommend one of the wider web shoes. So it would work, but I think you're going to wear a shoe faster in endurance with the narrow web.
All right. Tasha asked, have these been tested on jumping horses?
Show jumpers. I think I've got a few in Australia that have tried them out in show jumpers quite successfully. So it's got the traction that you need. I think that's the most important thing here, is that it's got the traction, and if you need to, you can actually add more traction to it. But it's probably got the same traction as a barefoot, which is pretty good.
Right.
Okay. Marie wants to know if you have pony sizes.
So at this point, we have 5 sizes front and 5 sizes hind, where we don't have pony sizes yet. What our idea is here is to get the first 5 front and hind launched, and then see how everything goes. But what we traditionally do is we get the kind of the peak of the bell-shaped curve done first, and then we add the smaller or larger sizes. So look for larger and smaller sizes here in the next probably 3 to 6 months.
All right. Kate said, I heard you say that tabs stay on for 5 weeks, but can you discuss the average length these stay on horses and how these might do on horses?
Jumping off the page.
Who notoriously
hard on a set of shoes. Okay, so
Really quickly, sorry, Garrett, just before you start, if your horse is hard on its shoes, that means there's resistance. And if there's resistance, the horse is not comfortable. So I think that if you can make the horse more comfortable in a situation like this, and I don't personally, the horses grow so well in a synthetic shoe like this, that at 4 weeks, they've actually outgrown the shoe. So I would say, I would prefer to go to 4 weeks in most situations. And they are so much more comfortable with this that they won't wear the shoe as much. That's my 5 cents worth.
Okay. And then, on the second part of the question about will the tabs stay for 5 weeks? So I've been working with the tabs and super glue for probably 18 months, 2 years now. And I have one horse that wore the same set of shoes 4 times in a row. Snow, ice, mud, hard conditioning. I pulled them, reset them. I never had a tab come loose, and this horse was working hard. So the whole key to these working correctly, and the super glue working correctly, and the tab system working correctly, is preparation of the hoof. And that is cleaning, drying, and roughing, getting a surface where the super glue wants to stick. So we've done a really good job on our site and Derek's site about how to prep a hoof correctly. And, even in a very, very wet environment, which a lot of people say you're in Durango, Colorado, you're not wet. You don't have a wet environment. All of our pastures are flood irrigated, and the majority of our horses, when you're flooding, they're in water over hairline of the hoof, eating, which sounds like a disaster for feet, but I have yet to have a tab shoe come off. So when done correctly, they're going to stay on very well. But like Derek said, you're probably going to want to pull back to. You're going to see so much more growth with a shoe that allows expansion and contraction. You're probably going to have to pull them quicker than that because you have too much growth.
Okay, we had a few questions about price.
Okay.
Yeah.
Valley Vet has the front for $46.95, front and hind both $46.95. That's for a pair.
Yep.
And then, can you trail ride in the 3D shoes, or is it not recommended?
I would say you can absolutely trail ride in the 3D shoe. It's a great shoe. It's going to give you really good traction. And so absolutely.
Can you add the EasyCare wedge to these?
So we don't have a wedge that's specifically fit to go in each shoe, but it's very easy to pull any wedge system, wedge pad, cut it, fit it, and then glue the shoe on.
Kate said, "You're giving me hope for the horse who isn't tolerating nails these days."
Well, and so the beautiful thing about that comment is the one thing I love about the shoe and the tab system is basically you slide the horse's foot in. They're now standing comfortable, eating, doing whatever they want to do. They're standing in it. Everything's beautiful. So now what we're doing is we're just peeling back each one of these tabs, putting super glue to it. And in a pinch, we don't even have to pick the foot up. We can actually wrap with the plastic wrap with the foot on the ground. So if you have horses that don't want to stand well, you have horses that are very sore on one leg, you can get them comfortable, get them happy, get the shoes on, and there's very little stress to the horse. It's one of the easiest systems I've played with in terms of gluing. So that's I'm glad she asked that question.
What's the best way to remove them if there is super glue on them?
The best way I found is I either use a hoof knife or a small wood chisel. And what I do is I start at the very top and I just break the bond maybe a 1/4 inch down. Once that's done, I take a pair of nippers and I roll them off. So if you're careful and you roll them off, the shoe is most likely reusable. And so if you can be gentle when you start peeling the tops off, and if you don't have nippers, you can also take the other thing I've done is I used a fish fillet knife and I've just slid it under each tab all the way down, being really careful not to damage the tabs. Once you get them all off, the shoe will slide off and you can reuse it. And to reuse it, you don't have to get all your glue off every tab. What I do is I take a wire brush, I clean them up as best I can, and then you can actually go right back in and reset them. When we were first testing the concept, I had a horse that I did 4 resets on, same set of shoes.
Betsy asked, how does the adhesive affect the hoof structure?
That's a good one. So Betsy, the interesting thing about that is both Derek and I have a mutual friend named Curtis Burns, and Curtis started using super glue on horses' feet as a sealant on racetrack horses because those horses were being washed every day, soaked in ice. They go back in the stall, and then the sawdust pulls all the moisture out. So you have a hoof that's expanding and contracting every day, which is a nightmare. And Derek's probably seen it a million times. Those horses' feet are very hard to keep shoes on. When Curtis started using super glue, as a sealant after he got done working. And what we're finding is that the super glue is actually holding the integrity of the hoof together better than just about any product out of the market. So works really well. It keeps the integrity, especially a hoof that's getting a lot of moisture and then getting dry the same day. So we've seen it really work well in hoof structure. And so now when I do my trimming, I'd say 90% of my horses are barefoot if they're not testing a product. Every time I trim them, I go in a dorsal wall and I add super glue.
So a horse has got a natural hoof varnish. You know, a lot of times that when we dress them out to clinch them or when we rasp it down or sand them down, we take quite a bit of that hoof varnish off, and it takes probably about 48 hours before they can generate it back again. And the super glue is an artificial hoof varnish, and it basically, once you put this on there, the horse will then create a hoof varnish underneath there, almost like a double layer, and it works really well as a water repellent, and that's exactly what the hoof varnish that the horse creates itself does. So I think it works very well for that purpose.
Yeah, I have. We've had some questions about super glue. You know, the effects it has on a hoof. Is there any negative effects? And one of the things I've been doing on one of my horses is the last 3 or 4 trims on one side of the horse, after I get done trimming, I'm adding super glue. The other side, I'm not. The interesting thing I'm finding on that horse is the side that doesn't have super glue, I'm getting a lot of flare earlier than on the other side. And so I'm just seeing that the structure and integrity is better. And it's, you know, this is one test I've done, but we're into it 3 trims, and I can definitely see the integrity of the feet are better.
Leah asked about the cost again, and they are $46.95. And that is for a pair, I believe.
Correct.
Tosh asked, when you seal the hoof with super glue, how long do you wait before gluing the tabs? And do you rough up the surface after sealing with super glue?
So the application process for this shoe is, first thing you want to do is you want to get a nice trim on your foot, and then you want to work on the dorsal wall. So you want to first you want to clean, you want to rough, and you want to dry. Once you do all those things, then it's time to put the shoe on. You slide your shoe on, and each one of these tabs, what I'll do is I'll take my super glue, I'll pull a tab back, add super glue to it, go around the foot. It's not, you don't have to be in a big rush. You have plenty of time. Once that's done, you wrap. And so when you're done, you take your wrap off, then I come back in on my, if this is my foot. The last thing I'll do is I'll take my super glue and I'll trace every one of these fingers, get that done. Then I'll add a little bit of super glue to my dorsal wall, take a pair of gloves, rub it all in, let it set, and be done. If we also have a product called InstaSet, and the nice thing about that product is what I usually do is once I do this last procedure, rub it in, she's got the InstaSet right there. One of the things I hate is if wind comes up and you blow any of your hoof shavings on or grass or whatever, it'll stick to your foot. So the last thing I'll do is I'll take that InstaSet, spritz it around the foot. As soon as it hits the foot and the super glue, it sets immediately. So your foot's set up, you're ready to go. You can literally take your horse out and ride him right away.
Betsy said that she'd been following Derek for a while, and she thinks she remembers when you talked about requirements for a 3D printer. She wonders if it'll be a scenario where if you have a 3D printer, you could purchase the rights to print it at home.
This product will never 3D print. The stress on it, there's no filament out there that'll be strong enough to hold this, unfortunately. So no. And also, if you think about a 3D printer, you have to have one flat plane to build up from. As you can see that on this shoe, there are too many planes to it to actually 3D print it. So, you know, you could probably do a model from it, but it would not be functional. It would be too rigid, or if you go too flexible, it won't be strong enough. because most 3D print materials are water soluble, so they'll break down over time in water. So they're definitely not.
Hey, Derek, at one time, how many 3D printers did you have going?
14. I couldn't cope, and it was waking up. It was like having a baby waking up to change the prints, and it was and the failure rate is so high, and then you'd be, at 3 hours and 55 minutes you'd get a power cut, so you'd have to start all over again. So no, I'm very glad to be injection molding now.
Right. So, and the main difference, you were able to do it on that product because it was flat and it didn't have the tabs.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Well, that is all the questions that we have so far. If you have any more, go ahead and put them in the comments.
Is there ever a situation where you would use
Yeah.
DIM with this shoe?
Go ahead, Derek.
Absolutely, yes. If your frog is recessed and is not going to be touching the frog plate on the shoe, we need to stimulate it with some sort of a false, and that's where the dim comes in. And I wouldn't go anything stronger than a 25 dim, but I would drill 3 holes in that frog plate, and that'll help lock that dim in place. So, one at the front and 2 at the back. You'll pop the dim in the heels. Make sure you set it before it cures. That's very, very important because that'll mold it to the horse's foot. And it really does help those horses that have got a recessed frog because it'll stimulate it.
Nice.
Okay. And also make sure you put some copper sulfate in on the frog surface before you start because that'll stop the bacteria from building up.
That was from a vet student in Michigan, Isabella. All right. Okay, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we draw a winner?
No, I want to thank you, Valley Vet. Thanks for having us on. And, Derek and I are really excited to offer these products. We've only been working together for a short time, but we have like minds. And so we'll have a couple new exciting products to come. And if you're not familiar with Derek's products in 3D, he makes some incredible products that go under shoes that are really really getting feet healthier. So, Derek, thank you. You've been a pleasure to work with, and let's draw a winner. Let's see who wins this thing.
We had a question come in, and Tosh is asking, what is the weight of this shoe compared to an aluminum shoe?
I don't know if I have that in front of me, but I think we were maybe a hair heavier than an aluminum plate because we have the frog support. But I think
the most important thing here is that although we've got the tabs up the side, we haven't got the centrifugal weight lower than an aluminium shoe because all the weight is directly at the bottom. So I just think it as far as the weight's concerned, it's negligible on a horse, especially when comfort comes into it. I really think it makes no difference, especially if you were to add a pad to an aluminum shoe, and add dim to it. This would be less than half the weight of that if you had to put a package that did the same of this weighs half of that package.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and draw a winner.
Okay, one lucky winner is going to receive a front pair of the 3D shoe,
Some glue.
super glue, and the Insta set.
nice.
All right, Melanie?
All right. So the winner today is Tosh Bledsoe.
Woohoo! Congratulations!
All right, Josh.
Well done. And guys, on 3D, I've got a tips page on Facebook where everyone that's applying the shoe shares their tips on how to apply it and shortcuts and all that sort of stuff. I think it's quite important that we can share the information that we've got out there. So please, just come on and join with us. And it's all linked up to Garrett's site. So appreciate that.
Nice.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
We wanted to mention, so we have a sale going on until midnight tonight. It's $20 off of a $250 order. So
Nice.
take advantage of that. And
Is that for everything you guys do, Valley Vet?
that, there's a few exclusions, but,
Awesome.
and then we also wanted to mention that the Clash of Cash giveaway, this ends on Friday. So if you haven't entered, make sure you get entered for that.
And join us next Tuesday. We're going to be live again with Dr. Lacey, and she will be discussing biosecurity and best practices for horses and livestock. So you won't want to miss that. Join us next Tuesday. It's not our normal Wednesday, but we will be live next week.
Tosh, if you're still on here, just go ahead and send us a private message to claim your prize.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
That's
Thank
all.
you.
Guys, thank you. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
guys. Appreciate it.